Out there, nasty crew. Nasty crew is a term that I coined, or someone coined on my last live Q&A. Go back and watch my last live Q&A if you missed it. We had a bit of a laugh. It's basically just saying how humans we've been too nice for too long. We don't stand up for ourselves. We don't call things out as we should, and that extends into the afterlife as well, where we give our power away. We believe whatever we're told. We believe in saviors. We believe that others, know more or think, know more than what we do, and we don't. We're just too nice. So someone in the chat coined the term "nasty crew," so I really like that one. So welcome, nasty crew. So today, guys, I'm going to review this video. It's actually a good review because someone sent it to me, and I watched it, and I just agree with a lot of it, and I just wanted to share it basically because when I started out on the journey of, searching for the truth, I remember my intention was I want to find out what the truth is, no matter what, no matter how much it hurts. I just want to know. I want to know why we have things like war. I want to know why, we live in a world where some people have a lot and others people are like starving on the streets. Like, I wanted to know why. And however deep that went, however far it went, I wanted to go there. And I think that intention has served me well because I feel like, I mean, obviously, I don't know everything and there's still lots to learn, I'm sure. But I feel like I do, go right deep down into the crevices of what this place is. And, um, and I feel within that, you have protection. I feel like when you understand things on the deep level to the negative side, you're able to make better decisions. You're able to shield yourself from the deception. You develop the discernment skills you need. You develop that, what I call sovereign energy. And of course, the new age in particular doesn't want you to do that. It's all about ignore the negative, just accept, just think high vibrations, and do that at your peril, because unless you're willing to go where it really hurts, then you're always going to be subject to manipulations and deception. So my point being is, get round to my point, is that I do believe that we are living in some kind of hell realm. I don't believe it's out there in another dimension. I know that they invent hell realms when people die and pass over, and NDEs to scare people, and then they can even put people there and freak them out, and then the entity will come along and say, "Well, look, we can help you, but you just need to sign this contract," right? So you have that kind of like fake hell, but this for me, and again, it's a shit sandwich, guys. I know it's a shit sandwich, but I'm really not pulling any punches anymore. I want the truth to be out there as to what this place is. And I think the bottom line to my intention all those years back, like, what is this place? Why is this place like this? I think the answer is it's a hell realm, and that can make you feel however you want it to feel. You can turn off if you can't handle that. But this channel, me, I'm here to just go where, if it hurts, it hurts. I just want to know, and I want to call things as they are. So with all that being said, guys, we're going to look at this video. Before we do, don't forget, if you're new, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, all that stuff. And if you'd like to work with me, you can check out my work on my website, which is transcendingtimes.org. So we're going to get into this. This is from a channel called Bible Story. Now, obviously, I'm not religious. I don't know too much about, what's on the channel, but I watched this video and I don't agree with everything, and I'll point out the things that I don't agree with. The ball Earth is on there as well. I don't agree with that. I'm sure I'll get comments. I always get those comments. Yeah, but we're not living on a ball. I know. All right, chill. So, but anyway, let's get into it and just check the volume and let's see what they have to say.
Earth is not a testing ground. It is not a preparatory stage for something better. This is not a playground, and it is certainly not a paradise.
Those are terms that we hear as well. A testing ground, they're so common. That Earth is a school. We're here to learn lessons. Even though we get our memory wiped, as I've said before, you get your memory wiped when you pass over. So how can it be a school? How can we learn lessons if you forget the lessons that you learned in the first place? How can you pass an exam if the studying that you've done gets wiped? So it's not a testing ground. It's certainly not a paradise, as the New Age people will tell you. I hear them say, you can create heaven or hell here. It just depends on your mindset. No, it doesn't depend on your mindset. That's called spiritual bypassing. Because even if you want to pretend or pack or mold this place into some kind of paradise, you've still got passports. You still got to earn money to survive, to pay for food, to pay for shelter. You're still subject to laws, to regulations. You're still even within the political arena, even if you don't agree with what someone's policy, if the majority vote for them, you have to go along with that. And it's not it's not a paradise. It really isn't.
What we are living in every single day is a nightmare masquerading as life. Wars, pandemics, poverty, cruelty, and endless pain, they aren't random occurrences or challenges designed to make us stronger. They are the defining characteristics of this realm. Welcome to hell, and if that makes you uncomfortable, good. Because
This is why I like the video, because he really doesn't pull any punches. So, but yeah, as he points out, it's constant. It never ends. It's cycle after cycle of wars, of famines, psyops. It's just, how can it be anything else?
the truth isn't meant to be comforting.
And even I've said this before, and I spoke to a client the other day. Even if things are going well in your particular life, like where you have periods where things seem to be going okay, then there's always something in the background that comes up behind you. Maybe a family member gets sick, or they pull another illness, or you can never relax into this place. Or if it doesn't happen to you, maybe your sister or your mum or your father or your girlfriend, they then go through something. So then you have that to deal with. So you can't fully relax into this place. There's always something. And even just for me, and I've said this before, even knowing that even if I'm okay, knowing as I do, and I've traveled a lot, so I've seen a lot of this, that there's kids living on dump sites, rummaging through bins. There's kids in tunnels. There's like, with all the stuff that goes, there's people getting their organs harvested. Like, how can you be fulfilled knowing that all that stuff is going on? And the New Agers will describe that as their karma, which is completely evil when you think about it. Or they chose that lifestyle. Oh yeah, so a kid's just going to choose a lifetime where it gets bred to be put into a cage in an underground tunnel to be abused and probably tortured and killed. Yeah. Does that sound like something that you would choose? And if that is a karmic consequence, I mean, I don't want anything to do with this universe moving forward. If that's how it works, I definitely want out.
It's meant to wake you up. Let's strip away the sanitized narratives you've been fed for centuries. Many ancient traditions, especially those outside the mainstream Abrahamic faiths, tell us that this world wasn't created by a benevolent God, but by a tyrannical force. The Gnostics called this entity the demage, a false god obsessed with power and control. According to their texts, the demage trapped divine souls in material bodies, forcing them to endure suffering and servitude in a corrupt, broken world. And yet, most people blindly worship this construct, mistaking it for the true source of divinity. It's the ultimate con, turning slaves into willing participants in their own torment. Now, let's talk about pain. not the necessary suffering that builds character. That's just another lie to keep you docile.
Yeah, you hear that all the time. I've spoken a lot on my Instagram. I'm a, I'm I'm part of these men's groups, and they're always saying things like, true men are made from suffering. A strong man comes out of suffering, and it's such horseshit. Like, why do we have to suffer to chisel out our character, to chisel out our personality? It's just another way that all the trauma and suffering gets explained away in this realm.
My first encounter with consciousness from another world was when I met someone in 2010 whose most recent past life took place on another planet. I could look into their past life and see and feel their planet through them. It was a fully enlightened world. There was no karma there. Every being was fully embodying their light in form without distortion. Total.
Oh dear.
I'm talking about the kind of pain that defines existence, the grinding misery of poverty, the despair of losing loved ones, the horrors of war. Did you know that more than 100 million people have been killed in wars just in the past century? And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
This is what they make you laugh when they talk about, like, the governments are always trying to warn you about things that can harm you and, like, these fake illnesses and stuff, when they're the worst perpetrators of death ever. Like, government itself are the worst. Like, they are the worst cause of suffering and yeah, just outright death. And yet they're always trying to, like, pretend they're on our team.
We have systems of oppression that exploit billions, diseases that ravage entire populations, and an endless cycle of natural disasters wiping out lives in seconds. Ask yourself, does this sound like the design of a benevolent creator? Or does it sound like a prison designed to maximize suffering? You want more proof? Let's talk about the concept of time. Time is not your friend. It is the most relentless tormentor of all. From the moment you are born, you are on a clock. Every second, every minute brings you closer to death. And along the way, time ensures that you watch everything you love decay.
What was that film where they said that this place is just a hospice? Everyone's just in one big hospice. It's gonna annoy me. I'll look it up while you're watching this. My friend sent me the video. I watched it, but let me get that up for you. I do these videos completely ab lib, as you can tell. So let me look that up while you're watching the rest of this.
And fade. It robs you of youth, health, and even hope. Time doesn't heal, it corrodes. If there's any greater weapon in the arsenal of this so-called world, I'd like to hear it. And yet, people still cling to the idea that this world is a gift, that suffering is redemptive, that life's...
Doctor Sleep. Yeah, that's a good one. They talk about the loosh harvesting. If you haven't watched that one, watch that, because yeah, that's where they say that this realm is just one big hospice, and it is. When you think about it, it is.
Miseries are tests to make us better. That's the cruelest joke of all. Look at history. Look at the millions who've been enslaved, butchered, silenced. Look at the billions struggling right now just to survive. Tell me, with a straight face, that this is God's plan.
God works in mysterious ways, though. I mean, honestly.
Because if it is, it's a plan straight out of a sadist's playbook. And don't let modern technology fool you into thinking we're evolving past this suffering. Sure, we've got smartphones and space exploration, but what do those things mean when 25,000 people die every day from hunger?
Yeah, exactly. This is my point. Like, even if you're okay, you still knowing that someone out there, many people out there, millions, billions of people are out there, living on the streets, living hand to mouth, suffering, being abused. In even, like, don't get me wrong. I think I think people that do bad things, you know, with prisons and stuff. But even when you like, I've watched documentaries about some of these prisons, and they're absolutely horrific conditions. And now, yeah, you could argue that some of those people it's justified, but you can bet your life that there's people in those prisons that are either innocent or their crime doesn't equate to the prison that they're put in. Now, I can relate to this because I've got a few stories about this. Um, I had here in Mexico a few years ago. I don't know if I've told this story. It's a long story. I'll give you the short version. But I travelled to a place called Merida um, with my girlfriend at the time, and she was Mexican, and I didn't have my visa on me, my visa card, because I was just getting a coach journey to another city. So I wasn't going abroad. I wasn't getting on a flight. So I just packed my stuff, my weekend bag, and we went off. Anyway, we get off the coach at the other end, and they're checking people for their visa. And I had it, but it was in my apartment where I lived. So they asked where it was, and I said, "Well, look, I've got it, but it's in my apartment back in Playa. Well, you need it." Well, I'm like, "Well, can you not check because it's all computerized? Can you not check on your computer?" "No, because it's the weekend." I'm like, "Right, okay." Anyway, this is a really long story, guys, so I'm going to cut it short. Anyway, the long and the short of it is they put me into a meat wagon, police meat wagon with other people from different nationalities. I don't know what they were there. They put me in immigration, and they put me in the immigration prison cell. And my girlfriend at the time was absolutely going like ballistic, like upset. They manhandled me in there like I killed someone, and this place was awful. I mean, you can imagine a Mexican prison. There was no bed for me. I had to sleep in between beds. I didn't actually sleep there in the end, which I'll get to in a minute. It was just a little prison yard, like just everything you could imagine about a Mexican prison. This was it, and I couldn't believe I was in there, especially from like with someone like me. You know, I've developed that sovereign mindset. I already know that I'm a slave here, but to be put in an environment like that just for not having my visa, um, I was like literally looking for ways to escape. Like I'm not joking you. I was looking over the barbed wire. I was that. It's like a caged animal for me. Anyway, what happened was, believe it or not, my ex at the time, she happened to be, get this right, her mother, her godfather, just happened to be the head of immigration in the whole of Mexico. Can you believe my luck? So she'd got on the phone to her mother, explained the situation. Tony's been put in this prison, um, and and he just made she phoned the godfather. He made a few calls, and then I was out within a few hours. But they were gonna keep me there. I found out later for 15 days. That was the minimum time they could keep me there. And so this is my point. I was put in that place. I'd done nothing wrong. I had the correct documentation. I'd gone through the correct, but yeah, I was put in this place which was brutal. And I know from speaking to some of the other prisoners there, a lot of them were coming from Guatemala, Colombia, because they were just looking for work. They wanted a better life. They wanted a better life because they just had no money. They were so poor. So these weren't even criminals. And there was a German girl on the other side because the prison was separated, and she'd suffered the same thing as me. Got off a coach, didn't have her visa, and she was absolutely bawling her eyes out in trauma, and I almost felt bad when they let me out because she was like in a much worse condition with me. And I said to the prison guy, I said, "Can you try and resolve like that girl? She's in trauma." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," but probably he didn't. And this is my point, right? People being put in those kind of conditions, they've done very little wrong. They're just trying to survive many of the time. Um, so yeah, it's just horrific, really. Just the whole prison systems.
When families are torn apart by warlords and despots. When the wealthiest 1% hoard resources while the rest of the world fights over scraps. This isn't progress, it's just hell with a shiny new coat of paint. Humanity's fall is not a metaphor. It's not a quaint story about disobedience and forbidden fruit, it's a calculated move in a cosmic game of control. Ancient narratives across cultures paint a picture of humanity being cast down, not by divine wisdom, but by a tyrannical force that sought to imprison us in a material cage. The biblical story of Adam and Eve, for example, has been misinterpreted for centuries.
The irony of this. Maybe this guy needs to watch this video to understand.
The so-called original sin wasn't about moral failure. It was about humanity being deceived and bound to a corrupt, physical existence. That fall wasn't just symbolic, it marked the beginning of our enslavement to suffering and ignorance. But let's step outside the Bible. In Gnosticism, the fall of humanity is tied directly to the creation of this world by the demage. This figure...
Again, guys, I'm not religious here. This is just... I just like the information on this. So if there's any religious connotations, I'm not subscribing to it, right? Just so you know.
Often described as arrogant and deluded, fashioned the material universe as a trap. The Gnostics didn't just believe this world was flawed, they called it a prison. To them, the demiurge wasn't a creator to be worshipped, but a tyrant to be exposed. And they weren't alone in this belief. In Hinduism, the concept of Maya, an illusion that blinds us to true reality, echoes this sentiment. The material world isn't our home, it's a construct designed to distract and control us. Even outside religious frameworks, the idea of a fall resonates in myths and traditions across the globe.
Yeah, they try and blame us again, don't they? You know, they say that, you know, humanity fell. Like we're the ones that did the wrong. You know, we're the perpetrators. You know, it's all about taking the blame off. You know, the real culprits. You know, the not even the shadow governments and the so-called elite. It's the entities behind the AI that's behind this system. It always wants you to think it's your fault. It's like the whole self-help community. It's like, it's your fault you're like this. No, it's a big part of it is due to the fact that you're born into this world and you experience trauma from just coming out the birth canal. I mean, let's not even get onto the subject of the birthing process. I mean, that's completely evil. You know, having to struggle through you know, for the mother and the child as well, it can take like days, and you know, you're trying to get through the birth canal because the mother's laying and she's not squatting, and then you get, in my case, whisked off to an incubator because I had what did I have? Jaundice, and you know, the abandonment that comes with that, and then you get like babies that get the snip and like the just the poking and the prodding. It's just like, this is why babies cry when they're born, right?
Take the Greek myth of Prometheus. He defied the gods to bring fire to humanity, a gift that symbolized knowledge and power. But what was his reward? Eternal punishment. The message here is clear: reaching beyond your station, seeking something higher, brings suffering. Similarly,
it's the whole like witches burned at the stake. And you know, now we get it in a different way. I get it. Not so much burned on the stake, but you know, smear campaigns and trolls, online trolls, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So they don't like necessarily physically burn you. I mean, they do take people out, but that doesn't seem to be the way that they tend to do things these days. You hear a lot less of that now. I think the last one was Max Spears, who did incredible work, and all of his stuff's been taken off of YouTube almost. If you can find any of his stuff, it's very, very insightful. Very sad what happened to him. But yeah, what they do now is they just start, you know, smear campaigns and all that kind of stuff. So
in Sumerian mythology, the Anunnaki are depicted as deities who manipulated and enslaved humanity. These stories aren't isolated. They're threads in a larger tapestry that tells us one thing: we are prisoners of a system we didn't create, but are forced to endure. Let's dig deeper into how this fall manifests in our everyday existence. Human beings are born into dependency. From the moment we take our first breath, we rely on others for survival. This dependency doesn't disappear, it evolves. As we grow, we become slaves to systems that dictate how we live. Education isn't about enlightenment, it's about conformity. Work isn't about fulfillment, it's about survival.
Yeah, it's just all about survival. Like this whole experience is about surviving. It's about just having enough to get by, so you can put food on the table, put a roof over your head. Um, and when you think about it, you can't survive this place anyway, because ultimately our physical bodies are at some point or another, whether that be through illness or some kind of accident or whatever, our physical bodies are going to cease to exist. So there is no survival. You're never going to live out this process. It's going to terminate at some point. I mean, you might get a really long life or whatever. And even with that, it's like this whole idea of people wanting to live a long life. I mean, does anyone ever question that? Like, you get old, you get back problems, you can't walk properly, maybe you need to go into a wheelchair. And again, I know I'm feeding you shit sandwiches here, but I question everything, and I really want like people just to see this place for what it really is, because unless you see it for what it really is, you're going to be stuck in the trappings of the illusion of what they want you to believe it is. Um, and so yeah, that whole idea of aging and everything.
Even our relationships are often shaped by societal expectations and pressures. The fall isn't a moment in history, it's a condition of existence that perpetuates itself through every aspect of our lives. And then there's the role of suffering. From ancient texts to modern psychology, suffering is portrayed as a teacher. But let's be honest.
Exactly. Lessons. So many lessons. You got to starve to learn your lesson. You got to starve to learn how to be grateful when you receive a breadcrumb. That's basically what they're saying. And once again, for the new people, for the people at the back, it cannot be a school if they wipe your memory. Impossible. Which happens when you pass over and you have your life review. They wipe your memory and you forget all your quote unquote lessons.
What kind of lesson requires endless pain? This isn't education, it's torment. Look at the world's design. Natural disasters wipe out entire communities. Diseases ravage the vulnerable. Violence is not an aberration, it's a constant. The system doesn't just allow suffering, it thrives on it.
Absolutely. And what this, I mean, literally, this video is perfect to, if you're still out there trying to wake people up, quote unquote. I mean, really, there is probably no hope for those people at this stage. But if you have got someone that may be open to listening, literally, this video lays out everything. You could watch this video and just completely get it. It's so in depth with everything that he talks about.
And the idea that this is all part of some grand, divine plan? That's the ultimate gaslight. Historically, humanity's attempts to rise above this condition have been met with brutal opposition. Revolutions are crushed. Innovators are silenced. Visionaries are labelled heretics or lunatics. Why?
Yeah, see, that this is what they do generation after generation. If they don't kill you, they say that you're crazy, or that they spread some BS about you, and like it just repeats over and over again. And yeah, they brutally put down any kind of pushback. I mean, they're having a battle on their hand now because they gave us the internet, and I think that's backfired on them quite a lot. I mean, even with all the censorship, the cat's kind of out the bag with a lot of stuff. So I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that a little bit.
Because breaking free from the chains of this fallen state threatens the entire system. The powers that be, whether spiritual, metaphysical, or societal, have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. The fall of humanity isn't just a past event, it's an ongoing reality reinforced every day by those who benefit from our suffering. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's history. From the burning of the Library of Alexandria to the Inquisition, from colonization to corporate greed, every system of control serves the same purpose: to keep humanity ignorant, divided, and subjugated. And every attempt to break free.
What's frustrating is that we don't learn. I mean, the whole like division stuff, like I see it in my country in the UK. I mean, it's going on here as well, Mexico and the States. You know, like they're trying to cause division there. And these, like, when you think about it, these are just imaginary like lines in the sand that someone created once. Like they don't even exist. Um, and you know, I appreciate mixing cultures. You know, we have our cultural heritages and traditions. When you mix all that together, yeah, of course, that's probably not the best idea. But why can't people just see it for what it is? Like, why can we not just see the strings that are pulling the puppets? You know, it's so frustrating. So, and people are so full of hate that they want to project that out onto someone or a sector of society. And of course, you know, in the UK, people, they don't go deep enough. They don't. They want to ignore that the government are arming the people that are coming here, giving them weapons. They're giving them hotel and food stamps and all this stuff. Yeah, why? Because that's going to make you angry. And if you're angry at them, then you're not going to get angry at the perpetrators that are pulling the strings. It's just so simple to see. Yet people can't just take a deep breath, take a step back and say, I see that this is going on, but actually there looks like there's some kind of like manipulation going on here. No, they want to go straight for the sector of society that the news tells them to hate on. And it's just over and over and over again. It's just shocking how many times we fall for the same tricks. The divide and rule. Black versus white, gay versus straight, rich versus poor, Manchester United versus Liverpool. Like, it just division everywhere. If we could only just unite and look at the common enemy.
Has been met with more chains. Earth is not just a flawed world, it's a highly efficient spiritual prison. This isn't an exaggeration or a metaphor. Many esoteric teachings and ancient philosophies describe our reality as a carefully constructed system designed to trap souls. The mechanisms of this prison are not chains or bars, but systems of control so intricate and pervasive that most people don't even realize they're incarcerated. First, consider the cycle of birth and death, often referred to as samsara in Eastern traditions. This cycle is presented as a natural process, a journey of the soul to achieve enlightenment. But some esoteric schools
What a gaslight. Really.
argue that samsara isn't a journey, it's a trap. Souls are forced to reincarnate, lifetime after lifetime, with their memories erased. Each time, they're thrust into a new body, facing new suffering, but never breaking free from the cycle. This isn't progress, it's entrapment. Imagine being sentenced to life in a prison where every time you try to escape, you're thrown back into a cell with no memory of your previous attempt.
I mean, that just hits really hard what he just said there. Like, think about it. Like, let that sink in. You get given life imprisonment. You spend you spend your lifetime in a cell, and then at the end of your sentence, they wipe your memory and they put you back in the cell for another lifetime. That is literally what we're talking about, guys. Again, doesn't feel good. It feels like shit. It's a punch in the face. It's a shit sandwich. But that is what is going on. And that is why I'm saying that we've got to get nasty. And we've got to fight back. And we may need to fight back at some point. Whether in this dimension or in the astral. Because this cannot be allowed to go on.
That's the spiritual reality for billions of people. Now let's talk about the architects of this prison. In Gnostic traditions, the demiurge is seen as the warden, but it doesn't operate alone. There's a hierarchy of lesser beings, often referred to as archons, who maintain the system.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole, I speak about this a lot, there's a whole smorgasbord of different entity races and different races within those entities. So reptilians, draconians, dragons, spider entities, mantis beings, greys. You know, greys are the ones that do a lot of the implants and the kind of dog work, if you like. The mantis beings seem to be a little bit more higher up in the hierarchy. There's a whole network of beings that are doing this, and they are doing a lot of stuff against our will. They're coercing us, they're tricking us, they're deceiving us, they're manipulating us. They can shapeshift. We've got to go into this with our eyes wide open. Like they will, this AI will work out with the algorithm. Joe Bloggs is coming now. How are we going to get Joe Bloggs? So you get a reptilian entity that will shapeshift into an angel. And then before you know it, Joe Bloggs is back down in another human body because he didn't bother to learn anything in his physical life. I mean, I watched something the other day. I don't know how true this is, but it kind of felt like it could be true that some of these greys or these entities, when they look at you with their eyes, they can do stuff with your memory. Like, that's what I mean. We need to get nasty. Like, we can't allow them to just do this. I don't want to be put into prison for another 100 years or whatever, for however many lifetimes.
These entities are described as parasitic forces that thrive on the suffering and ignorance of humanity. Their primary goal is to keep you distracted, docile, and disconnected from your true spiritual nature. How do they achieve this?
If you don't know what this ball is, you might be losing out on one of the biggest trends in sports right now. So this is pickleball.
By creating systems of control that infiltrate every aspect of your life. Take organized religion, for example. Throughout history, religion has often been a tool for enlightenment, but just as often, it's been a tool for oppression. Many religious institutions...
Enlightened to what, though? I mean, it doesn't enlighten you to anything. It just keeps you... it keeps you in the boundaries of the matrix. And all these kind of Hinduism, like Judaism, Christianity, it just... They don't care what one you believe in, as long as you believe in one of them. Because if you go down the religious route, you're not going to figure this stuff out. You're going to believe in the whole idea of hell and heaven, and you know, if you're Hinduism, like maybe karma. So then they're going to guilt trip you. Like if they don't get you on one, they get you on the other. This is why we have to let go of all matrix belief systems, in my opinion. I mean, you do you, but for me personally, they're all going in the bin. New Age, religion, all of it, Buddhism, all in the bin.
Institutions demand obedience rather than encourage questioning. They present doctrines that emphasize guilt, fear, and submission, conditioning you to accept suffering as a divine mandate. Even the promise of heaven often comes with a catch: endure hell on earth, and maybe you'll earn paradise after you die. That's not liberation, it's psychological manipulation on a cosmic scale.
It really is. I mean, it's just, when he puts it like that, it's just, yeah, if you're good enough in this lifetime, maybe you'll get to heaven. If your karma's good enough this lifetime, maybe you'll be like one of us, ascended masters. And yet we fall for it over and over again. The ultimate gaslight. And who are these beings that are judging us? You know, they're telling us not to judge, but all they're doing is judging. You know, is their house clean? I would say not.
But it's not just religion. The prison operates through every system that governs human life, politics, economics, education, and even culture. Governments create laws not to protect, but to control. Economies are built on exploitation, ensuring that a small elite thrives while the majority struggle. Education systems teach conformity rather than critical thinking. Media.
Yeah, we saw all this with the pokes in the arms, didn't we? We had educated people telling us that they were safe and effective because they'd been in med school for God knows how many years. Like, they're always the most brainwashed, aren't they? The people that have been in university and had like extra indoctrination, they always are even harder to get through. They're almost impossible to reach because they believe, because they've been through the education system and they've been to university, that with the snobbery that comes with that, that you can't, they can't learn anything from you. You're just a mere mortal. And so they come with this like ignorance and arrogance that, yeah, they can't learn anything, or because you're not approaching it from a mainstream governmental body point of view, then you somehow are wrong before you even opened your mouth. So another trap people fall into. And it's interesting, they call it a degree. Like when you pass your exams, you get a degree. And I would say that means that the degree in which you are brainwashed, your degree, because there's different levels that you can get. So a distinction level in a degree would mean you did very well and you were very highly brainwashed. And then you get to wear that black cube on your head, which is symbolic of Saturn's cube, which symbols mind control. And we see that with the Kabbalah, where the Muslims, they go around the black cube. The TV is like what it used to be, it's more flat screen now, but a black cube. It's mind control, it's symboling mind control. And when people put that stupid black hat on, they got you. They're laughing at you. They don't think, you think the system thinks that you're intelligent? You think the people that gave you all those books to read, wrote those exercise books, think that you're clever because you learned how to repeat something over and over again? You learned to repeat some BS? They're laughing at you. Just like they laugh at their dogs, the soldiers and the police, the order followers, the people that just unquestionably beat people up, put them into cells, kill people because some fat paedophile told them to go to another country that they have no right to be in. And then they fly past the goat farmer who's just going about his day and drop a bomb and fly off like a coward. And then they come back and they expect to be considered heroes. And in fact, they are considered heroes. Like all these people, honestly, in the UK, this might upset a few people, but it is what it is. This whole Poppy Day, like the soldiers were heroes. No, they weren't. They were brainwashed. Let's call it how it is. They were brainwashed. They fought a war, a rich man's war. Probably most of those are pedos, and they killed their fellow human being. And worse still, if you read the book, what's it called? I always forget the name of it. About World War II and what really happened. What the Allies did there, bombing a park where German survivors were all congregated. They went back. Dresden bombing. They went back and bombed that park. And there was zoo animals in there. They bombed the giraffes and the elephants at the same time. And then the Allies were, raping women and children. You don't get taught that. I didn't get taught that version at school. And I'm sick, really, of soldiers being considered heroes. I mean, it's just ridiculous that people even think that. They've shown no moral integrity. They've not shown any independent thought, any discernment. Oh, hang on a minute. If I'm going to go to that country and kill people, is what I'm doing actually right? But no, they just hide behind the flag of whatever country, and call it patriotism, and what a joke. What a joke war and soldiers are. I mean, it really, like a lot of our problems, yeah, this place is set up for evil and whatever, but a lot of our problems are through our own ignorance and stupidity. You have to say, you have to lay, some of the blame at our doorstep for the things that we continue to do and continue to believe in. And I remember when I did, I've spoken about this before, when I did I did a live Facebook video saying these things, and it went viral, and I got tons of death threats from angry soldiers saying that, I was wrong and all this stuff. I'm not wrong. Like, when are we going to reach a point if we are ever to evolve, where we say these soldiers are not heroes? They're fighting other men's wars. And you think about all the suffering and just all down the years of just us doing it to ourselves in many ways. It's sad, it really is, and it's kind of embarrassing to be part of this race of people that still believe and think that something like war is a solution to anything.
Media and entertainment distract you from the harsh realities of existence, feeding you a constant stream of trivialities while suppressing meaningful discourse. These systems don't serve humanity, they serve the prison. And then there's the role of human suffering. In a prison, the inmates are there to serve a purpose. In this spiritual prison, that purpose is energy. Many esoteric traditions suggest that human suffering generates a form of energy, call it emotional, psychic,
Loosh.
or spiritual, that is harvested by the forces that run this system. Every war, every famine, every act of violence and despair contributes to this energy. The more you suffer, the more you feed the system. It's not just about keeping you in line, it's about extracting every ounce of vitality from your existence.
This is why I love this video, because he really goes into this metaphysical part of it, which is all why this is like this is, because this is a farm, it's a loosh farm. They need our energy, particularly our negative energy, our fear, our suffering, our pain, anxiety, for all these entity races to feed on us and to power this AI God, this system. We are the batteries that power it all. So it's like a loop. We're being recycled here to generate food. Then we're dying, we're coming back, we're dying, we're coming back. And so it's like a system that regenerates itself through us. And this is important to really understand, because you can understand all the physical stuff and the stuff that he's spoken about with the wars and everything like that. But until you get it at a metaphysical level and understand that all this other stuff's going on in the astral that we can't see with our physical eyes, well, you can tune into it clairvisually, and realize that the problem's coming from there, not coming from here. This is just an expression of what's coming from there. And that's where they don't want you to look. And that's why they don't really care. And like people don't really get targeted that much if they're just exposing like physical stuff and, the chemicals and everything. Like, they don't really care about that. But when you get to this level and you're talking about entities and the overlays and what the chakras do and the implants and all that kind of stuff and soul trap, this is when the trolls come out. This is, all that kind of stuff. And, people will come into your life, like love bite relationships will come into your life. And, it's just, ever since I really got onto the metaphysical side of this, you definitely notice an uptrend in in their interest in you. So
look at the structure of your daily life. Most people spend the majority of their lives working jobs they hate just to survive. They are bombarded with propaganda that tells them to consume, conform, and never question the system. This isn't living, it's existing. and the
That was the name of my first book. Are you living or just existing? I remember clear as day, those words popped in my mind. It's like, Tony, you're not living, or Tony, are you existing or are you living? And that was such a poignant, a poignant thought that I had.
worst part? Most people don't even realize they're part of a system designed to exploit them at every turn. Historically, those who've tried to expose this prison have been silenced. Philosophers, mystics, and revolutionaries who spoke out against the system were labeled heretics, exiled, or executed.
Conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat wearers, crazy. I mean, had it all. We've all had it all, no?
Why? Because the prison relies on ignorance to function. Awareness is dangerous. Awareness is the first step toward breaking free. Reincarnation is often sold as a comforting concept, a cosmic do-over where you get another chance to get it right. But let's cut through the feel-good rhetoric and look at what reincarnation really is in the context of this spiritual prison. It's not a second chance. It's not a path to enlightenment. It's a cycle of captivity designed to keep you trapped in suffering and ignorance. In ancient traditions like Hinduism and Buddhism, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, called samsara, is central to understanding existence. But these teachings also make it clear samsara is not a blessing. It's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's described as an endless loop of misery, where every birth brings new forms of pain, new struggles, and new attachments that keep you tied to the material world. Enlightenment in these traditions.
I wonder if we have like some kind of warped addiction to this place. You know, like how, like Stockholm syndrome. You know what I mean? Like how the prisoners end up really siding with the prison guards, and I think this may be why some people just try and explain this place away as something that it's not. And you have all the emotional ties and everything that we have here with other people and animals, and you know, all those other things. And you wonder if that, you know, it's become like an addiction. Like Earth is like a cocaine. Like, you know, it's not good for you, but it's such a like a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. It's just an interesting point that he makes.
Traditions is the escape route, the only way out of this repetitive torment. But achieving enlightenment? That's like trying to solve a puzzle while blindfolded and shackled because the system is stacked against you.
For me, this area of work is what I would consider true enlightenment. Working out that this place is a soul trick, understanding what's behind it, who's running it, understanding that their strengths and their weaknesses, because they have weaknesses as well. You know, we're way more powerful than them. I mean, this is the cosmic joke. They know that. This is why we're the batteries that power this thing. So understanding the enemy, understanding how they work, and ultimately looking for ways around it, out of it, or bringing it down. This is what I would consider true enlightenment. Not, you know, you're a perfect person all your life, so you've managed to garner enough karma, which is how some of these kind of religions tell you how it is.
The mechanics of reincarnation are rarely questioned. In esoteric teachings, souls are said to be recycled through lifetimes by forces beyond their control. These forces, call them cosmic administrators, spiritual gatekeepers, or the architects of this prison, erase your memory with every new birth. Why? So you can't learn from your past mistakes. Imagine being thrown into a maze, blindfolded, with no memory of the maze you just navigated.
I mean, really, guys, you know, it's tragic. Like, I can't, you know, again, I just call it how it is. It's just so sad. It really is so sad. It's, you know, I sometimes wonder how many times have I personally been here? Like, because I don't know I don't know how many lifetimes I've had here, and the suffering that I've had to gone through, just myself, let alone everyone else. But I'm talking like the whole of humanity or spirits, us as spirits or souls or however you want to refer to us as. You know, it seems to be just a one long torturous process, um, which yeah, it makes me feel so sad, and I wouldn't be human if I didn't feel sad and feel that it's tragic. And even like looking at what's going on today to people and poor souls and poor people and people that are born with illnesses, children that are born with like terminal illnesses, and you know, I don't need to bang on about it. We know about it, but yeah, it's just really sad. And my best hope would be that somehow we can bring this whole thing down by, I don't know, us getting out of here, or because it feels like it needs to end permanently because it is so cruel, both on this side and on the astral as well. When you consider what's going on there with the, you know, the Beetlejuice realm, where people are being held captive there until they're, you know, ready to be recycled back down here. Go out there, true power. No one understands, you know, who and what they are, probably because of the memory wipes. So this is why I feel like this lifetime is a real opportunity. You know, we have the internet, we have access to information, have access to misinformation as well, but it does feel like we do have, you know, a window here, and we really need to do everything we can to really take that with both hands, because who knows, like, what's down the path, and we know what they want to do with the technological stuff and the consciousness transference. We can't get it. We can't let it get to that stage. We really can't.
Reincarnation in a nutshell. And the stakes are high. Reincarnation doesn't just reset your life, it resets your suffering. You're not only forced to endure new struggles, you're also made to repeat old ones. Relationships, traumas, fears.
Yeah, the birth process, the death process, those traumas that we all have to repeat them over and over again. You know, it's just never ending. Fears. It's weird about fears. I think I said on my live, I don't really like heights too much. I wonder if something happened in another lifetime with heights. Some people get those like innate fears, don't they?
They all come back in different forms, lifetime after lifetime.
Es increíble cómo optimizas cada kilómetro y controlas los gastos de tu flotilla con Edenred.
That's why people often experience unexplainable phobias, déjà vu, or instant connections with strangers. These aren't coincidences, they're echoes of the lives you've lived before. But instead of helping you break free, these fragments of memory only add to the confusion.
Yeah, absolutely. In my case, I don't know why I've got that. I mean, nothing's happened in this lifetime to give me that. But I just, you know, I've got a balcony over here. I can't really look over because I get like vertigo. Like, where has that come from? And then yet someone else, you know, one of my friends comes around, doesn't bother them, you know?
History is filled with teachings about the dangers of this cycle. The Gnostics viewed reincarnation as a deliberate trap set by the demage and its minions, designed to keep divine souls tied to the material world. Tibetan Buddhism warns of the bardo, a transitional state between death and rebirth, where souls are lured back into existence by their attachments and fears. Even in ancient Egypt, the concept of the duat, the afterlife, involved navigating a treacherous journey where failure meant being thrown back into the cycle. These aren't tales of liberation, they're cautionary warnings about the machinery of this endless loop.
And again, you know, just based on that, this is why it's important to get it right, because by going by what they're saying is that there's like a window when you die, and probably it involves the light tunnel and the love bomb, the love bomb frequency technology that they use. which kind of puts you like in a deer in a headlight kind of haze, and then before you know it, you're floating into the light tunnel, and then you get that far, you've probably gone too far, I would say.
Modern accounts from near-death experiences and past life regressions add another layer to the story. Many people who undergo these experiences describe a light or being that persuades them to return to life, often with promises of fulfilling a purpose or completing unfinished business.
Always unfinished business. There's always unfinished business. There's always karma to be resolved.
But who decides this purpose? Who sets these terms? These narratives suggest that even in death, free will is an illusion.
This is what I was saying on my live, the whole idea that we have free will. Like, there's just coercement everywhere. There really is. I mean, free will really is an illusion. In this matrix, I would assume we're supposed to have free will. That's why probably there's all these contracts that they get you to sign. So it's almost like it's on you, But even without that, you hear of, I've reviewed a lot of NDEs where like God stuffs them back down into their body and people getting forced through the memory wipe process and all this kind of stuff. It's almost like they try and sweet talk you, smooth talk you, but if you still resist, then they go for, just like any kind of prison system. They ask you nicely, and then if you say no, then they beat you. So, the idea is to get out of it completely, I guess.
Guided or coerced into returning, not because it's what you want, but because it serves the system. Let's also consider the implications of karma, a concept often tied to reincarnation. Karma is framed as a moral ledger where your actions in one life determine your circumstances in the next. But think about how this plays out. If you're born into poverty, suffering, or oppression, it's because of bad karma from a previous life. This logic not only justifies inequality, but also traps you in a cycle of guilt and self-blame. Instead of empowering you to break free, karma becomes another tool of control, another mechanism to keep you tied to the cycle. Even the promise...
Yeah, it's just BS. I mean, I've said it before, where's the karma for all the pedos and all the, all those kind of people? They've got everything. They've got all the money, all the wealth. I mean, probably they're not happy because they're reptilians, probably, but still, I mean, you don't see karma playing out. You get good people thrown in prison. I spoke recently of that guy that saved all those kids in the flood. He ended up falling down a manhole and dying in a sewer. I mean, where's his karma?
The promise of spiritual advancement through reincarnation is a mirage. You're told that each life brings you closer to liberation, but there's no guarantee. Most people live and die without ever questioning the system, let alone breaking free from it. And those who do try to escape are often met with obstacles so insurmountable that their efforts seem futile. The system isn't designed for liberation, it's designed for perpetuation. This world isn't just broken, it's designed to make you suffer, and the most sinister part is that it operates as a shared delusion. The idea of a collective nightmare isn't new. Philosophers, mystics, and even modern thinkers have pointed to the possibility that reality as we know it isn't real in the way we think.
Sorry, I'm just responding
to a
message.
It's a shared hallucination designed to trap us. In the Gnostic worldview, the material universe is an illusion created by the demage to keep divine souls imprisoned. The illusion is so complete that most people don't even realize they're in it. They live their lives chasing material goals, satisfying superficial desires, and conforming to societal expectations, never questioning the deeper nature of their reality. This illusion isn't a benign mistake, it's a meticulously crafted mechanism. Its purpose? To keep you enslaved to a system that feeds off your energy, your labor, and your pain. First, there's the psychological aspect. From birth, you're conditioned to accept the world as it is. Schools teach you to obey authority, follow rules, and fit into predetermined roles. Religion often reinforces this by telling you that...
I hated school. I'm sure you all did, but wow, it was... I felt like I was in prison. Honestly, I felt like I was in prison. Couldn't wait to leave. You know, I got picked on as well. You know, I was a sensitive soul. Probably the Matrix put all their, you know, forces out in terms of kids and stuff. And kids are so cruel, you know. Like other kids got it worse than me, but I got it bad as well. I mean, a lot of work I've done on myself in terms of inner work has been around what happened at school. I feel when I look back at my school years, I feel very sad for my inner boy. He was so lonely, just didn't feel safe at all. Like, yeah, just I really feel for him still.
That suffering is virtuous, that your rewards come after death, and that questioning the system is tantamount to heresy. The media bombards you with distractions, trivializing real issues and keeping you focused on entertainment, consumerism.
Yeah, they're always trying to distract you so you don't spend your time doing this work. You know, sports, and that's why sportsmen and women are paid extortionate amounts of money for what? Kicking a ball around. Like, there was an average player. I mean, I do watch football as a little bit of an escape. I'm not like one of these people where it spoils their week if their team lose. Soccer for the Americans that are watching. And there's this average player that my team has, and he's on £250,000 a week. It's like, so they pay all these entertainers, and you know, everything is put out there to keep you from getting to this information. I believe like they don't want you looking at this stuff. They want you looking at the sports, at the soap operas on TV, on Netflix. I mean, look at the word Netflix, net. You know, you can watch. I know people that they've watched like nearly every series on there. I mean, I do watch stuff on there occasionally because there's always stuff that they're putting truth into stuff. But yeah, everything's to keep you from looking at what's really important and researching. You know, notice the word research.
And fear. These aren't random elements, they're deliberate tools to keep you asleep, unaware of the deeper truth. Then there's the emotional manipulation. Fear, guilt, and shame are some of the most powerful emotions, and the system knows how to exploit them. Governments use fear to control populations, fear of war, fear of poverty, fear of the other. Religions use guilt and shame to make you compliant, convincing you that you're inherently flawed and need salvation. Even social systems play into this, using peer pressure to enforce conformity. Every part of your life is designed to keep you emotionally entangled in the nightmare, preventing you from waking up and seeing it for what it really is. The nightmare isn't just individual, it's collective. Every war, every economic crisis, every social conflict feeds into it. The system creates artificial divisions, nations, races, religions, ideologies to keep humanity fighting among itself.
Yeah, rinse and repeat. I might just put this on a higher. Can I put this on a higher playback speed? What am I on now? Let's try it on this because it's a good video, and it's important to break this stuff down. But maybe we can just speed it up a little bit.
While people are busy hating each
I've gone the
other,
opposite way.
they're not questioning the system that keeps them all enslaved.
Oh, how do I change it back?
This division isn't accidental, it's engineered.
You are an alpha for the first 5 minutes of your morning. So you wake up, don't do anything else
Oh,
other
no,
than
not
maybe
mine,
brush your
Valley.
teeth or use.
Divide and conquer isn't just a military strategy, it's the foundation of the prison. Even the natural world plays a role in this collective nightmare. Disasters like earthquakes, hurricanes, and pandemics remind us of our fragility, reinforcing the sense of fear and helplessness. But these events also serve a deeper purpose. They keep humanity focused on survival, too preoccupied with immediate threats to look beyond them. The system ensures that you're always putting out fires, never
Always in fight or flight. That's the human condition, isn't it? The nervous system, the wonderful nervous system that they gave us. It's always fried. We're always trying to, yeah, like he says, survive.
Ever questioning why the fires keep starting in the first place? One of the most insidious aspects of this collective nightmare is how it perpetuates itself. People who've bought into the illusion become its enforcers. Parents teach their children to follow the same rules they were taught. Teachers prepare students to...
Yeah, I use the example of like smacking and hitting kids. I mean, I never get that one, but then that gets passed down from their parents, and that gets passed down from their parents. You know, there's so much that we take on that's wrong, and we just repeat it again.
Fit into the same broken systems. Leaders promise change, but maintain the status quo. The nightmare doesn't just persist, it spreads, generation after generation, because the people trapped in it become its architects. Let's talk about the concept of escape, or the lack thereof. Throughout history, there have been individuals who tried to expose the nightmare. Philosophers like Socrates, mystics like Rumi, revolutionaries like Spartacus, they all pointed to the deeper truth that something is fundamentally wrong with the world. And how were they treated? Socrates was executed, Rumi was marginalized, Spartacus was crucified. The system doesn't just...
You never really know what happened to those people. Like, you don't know if they were just like controlled opposition, or who knows,
suppress dissent,
or if they even existed.
It punishes those who dare to wake others up. Time is often romanticized as a healer, a teacher, or even an ally. But let's strip away the sentimentality and face reality. Time is not your friend. It's the most efficient tool of control in this entire system. Time doesn't just measure your life, it governs it. It dictates every decision, every regret, and every loss. It's the prison guard you can't see but always feel. To understand the true role of time, let's go back to its origins as a concept. Early civilizations like the Sumerians and Egyptians were among the first to formalize timekeeping. They divided days into hours, months into lunar cycles, and years into seasonal rotations. At first glance, it seems innocent, humans organizing their lives around the rhythms of nature. But it didn't take long for rulers and priests to weaponize time as a tool of control. Calendars dictated when people worked, when they prayed, and even when they rested. Time became a way to structure society, and with that structure came power.
I never really thought about time like that, but now he says it like that, it really does feel like that. It definitely feels like a mechanism of control.
Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution. Time was no longer just a tool for organizing life, it became a commodity. Clocks in factories measured productivity down to the second. Workers' lives were divided into shifts, each minute accounted for, each hour monetized. Time stopped being a natural flow and became something that could be bought, sold, and stolen. The phrase "time is money" wasn't just a metaphor, it was a reality that enslaved millions. And let's not forget the psychological impact of time.
You hear that so often, don't you? Time is money. It's sad when you think about it. Just for like a piece of paper.
It's not just an external force, it's something deeply ingrained in your mind. From a young age, you're taught to think in terms of deadlines, schedules, and milestones. You're told that your worth is tied to how you use your time. Are you productive enough? Are you efficient? Every ticking second becomes a reminder of what you haven't accomplished, what you've lost, and how little of it you have left. Time doesn't just control your actions, it controls your emotions. The fear of running out of time creates anxiety. The regret of wasted time fuels guilt. The hope for more time keeps you striving, even when the system you're striving within is broken. These aren't accidental side effects, they're intentional. The emotional weight of time keeps you tethered to the system, always chasing, always fearing, always regretting. Let's look at how time amplifies suffering. The death of a loved one isn't just painful because of the loss itself, it's painful because time ensures that the loss is permanent. Aging isn't just a biological process, it's a constant reminder that time is taking everything away from you, your strength, your health, your opportunities. Even moments of...
It's so true. It really does. It makes things seem, it makes you feel like you're going to lose everything. And I guess in a sense that you do. I mean, we don't really die, so when it's a loved one, but who knows when we meet them again, like because we have the memory wipes, we don't know exactly what's going on with that.
Of joy are tainted by time, because you know they're fleeting. Time turns every peak into a countdown to a valley. And here's the kicker, time isn't even real in the way we think it is. Modern physics tells us that time is a dimension, not a linear progression. It's relative, malleable, and far less concrete than we experience it. But the system doesn't want you to know that. It needs you to believe in the ticking clock, the calendar, the linear march from birth to death. Because as long as you believe in the inevitability of time, you're easier to control. Time also creates the illusion of progress. Societies point to technological advancements, social changes, and historical milestones as proof that humanity is moving forward. But forward to where? Time becomes a
Yeah, just forward into the next reset. That's basically all.
justification for complacency. Things will get better, they say. Give it time. Meanwhile, the same cycles of suffering and exploitation repeat, generation after generation. Time isn't leading us anywhere, it's keeping us in place. Look at the systems that dominate our lives: capitalism, education, governance. All of them rely on time as a framework. You work your entire life, trading hours for dollars, hoping to retire before time runs out. You spend years in school, waiting for a future where you can finally live. But that future never comes, because time isn't leading you to freedom.
It never ever comes, does it? None of it.
It's leading you to the grave. Suffering is not just a side effect of existence, it's a resource, deliberately harvested, perpetuated, and consumed. This isn't a philosophical abstraction. It's the core mechanism of the system we're trapped in. Pain, fear, and despair aren't just byproducts of life, they are the currency of this prison. And like any resource, they serve a purpose. Let's get into how and why suffering is extracted and who, or what, benefits from it. Across cultures and traditions, there are recurring ideas that human suffering generates a type of energy. In esoteric circles, it's often referred to as loosh, a spiritual byproduct created by intense emotional experiences. Think about it: war, famine.
Even our emotions, like, some of them seem insanely intense. You wonder if there's like some kind of amplification that goes on with those as well. Because when you research the NDEs, they often feel that they often say that they don't feel such intense emotions. So maybe that's part of the program, the simulation as well, to create more loosh.
Disease, oppression, these aren't random or isolated events. They're patterns. And patterns don't happen without intent. The constant global suffering isn't just coincidental, it's systemic. Every aspect of life is designed to extract suffering. Governments wage wars that devastate nations. Corporations exploit workers to generate profits. Social hierarchies ensure that billions struggle while a tiny elite hoards resources. But it's not just physical suffering, it's emotional and psychological as well. Media outlets flood us with fear and anger. Social media
Yeah, I was speaking to a client today about how I think what happened with the illness 5 years ago. I think the world is still suffering like some kind of post-traumatic stress disorder. Because if you think about it, we were bullied. We were bullied into our homes. Well, many people were. Even if you weren't, even if you still went out, which I did, you were still like segregated, told you wanted to go for some food, you couldn't go in without putting a stupid face nappy on your face. And then you had all the conflict with family members about don't take it, do take it, and the conflict that caused. And then everyone lost a huge amount of trust in everyone else. And you really saw the condition of the human psyche. And I think a lot of people, I've spoke to a lot of people kind of gave up after that. And I think that it really does play a huge role, actually. And I think we're very, as a species, we're still very much in trauma from all of that for the last 5 years.
amplifies envy, insecurity, and loneliness.
Have you tried a ton of different spiritual techniques and energy healing modalities, but there's still one or more areas of your
These aren't side effects of modern society, they're features.
You can see the algorithm, how it suggests this stuff, because I research all this new age stuff.
Each one adds to the pool of collective suffering, which the system depends on. And here's where it gets even darker: this energy doesn't just disappear. Some traditions suggest that this suffering is consumed, metaphorically or even literally, by entities that exist beyond our perception.
Yep.
In Gnostic texts, the archons are said to feed off the anguish of humanity, sustaining themselves through the energy generated by our pain. Similarly, some occult theories describe parasitic forces that attach to individuals or communities, drawing power from their emotional turmoil. Whether you interpret this literally or symbolically, the result is the same: suffering.
Yeah, as I say, these entities are feeding on everyone as well, not just they're not just working through our world leaders, but everyone has entity attachments. Some have more than others. Some people have more stronger ones than others. But we're all subject to the same harvesting by these beings, and I would say by the AI itself behind all of this. Cows on a farm.
Is not wasted, it's utilized. Think about the industries that profit from suffering. The pharmaceutical industry thrives on illness, offering treatment, but rarely cures. The military-industrial complex grows fat on conflict, with no incentive to end the wars that sustain it. Even charities often perpetuate the problems they claim to solve, creating cycles of dependency rather than solutions. These aren't...
You know what? These charities, I mean, I prefer to give someone some money on the street, or if someone's got like a GoFundMe or something, but a lot of these mainstream charities, like the Red Cross, and these are like satanic. And then you have these virtue signaling celebrities like David Beckham and all that have the gall to come on and say, you know, give your money when they're raking in billions or millions or whatever.
Accidents, they're strategies. Every act of suffering fuels a system that profits from human misery. Historically, this isn't new. Ancient civilizations engaged in mass sacrifices to appease their gods, spilling blood in exchange for favor or fertility. But what if those sacrifices were less about appeasement and more about feeding something? Today, we don't build altars or temples, but the sacrifices continue, only now they're dressed up as necessary evils. Poverty, injustice, and violence are framed as inevitable, just part of how the world works. But inevitable for whom? Not for the ones benefiting from it. Even on a personal level, suffering is extracted. Toxic relationships, workplace exploitation, and systemic discrimination don't just harm individuals, they create ripples of pain that extend outward, affecting entire communities. And these ripples are the real commodity. The system doesn't just want you to suffer, it wants your suffering to be contagious.
And this is why people want to escape themselves. And this is why, since coming into like soul trick information, I've got a lot more empathy for people that you know, turn to alcohol, drugs. You know, even spirituality is an addiction. Like the new age stuff is an addiction for a lot of people. I've had a lot of people come to me down here, San Antonio. I was addicted to all that stuff. And obviously, you know, people that suicide. And actually, I've said before, I think it's incredibly brave for someone to pull the plug on themselves. I mean, I don't know if I could ever do it. So, yeah.
That's why the news focuses on disasters and tragedies, why social media algorithms amplify outrage, and why economic systems reward inequality. Misery loves company, and this system ensures there's plenty to go around. Let's talk about energy. Science tells us that energy can't be created or destroyed, it only changes form. Now apply that to suffering. Emotional pain, grief, and despair are forms of energy. When you cry, scream, or break under the weight of life's hardships, that energy doesn't just vanish. It goes somewhere. And if the system is designed to maximize suffering, you can bet there's a reason for it. This isn't just speculation.
I imagine there's some kind of like machine, like just sucking it all up, you know. That's how I visualize it. Just hoovering it all up, all over the place.
Look at the scale of suffering on this planet. Billions of people live in poverty. Millions are displaced by war. Entire ecosystems are destroyed for profit. This isn't chaos, it's coordinated. The suffering of the many fuels the comfort of the few, creating a pyramid where the pain of the base sustains the luxury of the top. And at the very top, the unseen forces or systems that thrive on the extraction of suffering. Throughout human history, myths have served as more than just stories. They were warnings, coded messages passed down through generations to help us understand the true nature of reality. And when you start digging into these myths, a pattern emerges, a recurring theme of endless struggle, punishment, and entrapment. These aren't tales of hope, they're accounts of a system designed to keep humanity enslaved. Let's start with one of the most famous myths in Greek history, Sisyphus. He was condemned by the gods to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only to have it roll back down every time he neared the top.
I think that's very symbolic of life, no? The recycling. I think they were telling us something there.
It's often interpreted as a metaphor for futility, but look deeper. Sisyphus isn't just enduring physical labor, he's trapped in a system where every effort is designed to lead to failure. Sound familiar? It's the same dynamic that plays out in our lives. Struggle all you want, against debt, against inequality, against systems of oppression, and the boulder keeps rolling back down. Then there's the story of Prometheus, the titan who gave fire to humanity. His reward? Eternal torture. Every day, his liver is eaten by an eagle, only to regenerate overnight so the process can repeat. Why was Prometheus punished so harshly? Because he tried to break the system. He gave humanity a gift that
My liver's screwed then, along with everyone else's.
challenged the gods' monopoly on power. His story is...
I'm not comparing myself to a Greek god, by the way. It's just what I'm saying is that, you know, obviously I'm out here trying to expose this stuff, as are a lot of other people. So there's going to be an eagle feasting on my liver. But part of me thinks that's just, you know, some of these are just stories to scare people into like not saying anything and just keeping quiet.
Just about rebellion. It's about the cost of defiance in a system that thrives on control. Even ancient Egyptian mythology hints at this. The concept of the duat, the Egyptian underworld, wasn't a peaceful afterlife. It was a treacherous landscape filled with obstacles and dangers that souls had to navigate to reach eternal rest. Fail, and you'd be devoured by a fearsome deity. Success wasn't guaranteed, and the journey was fraught with peril. These aren't stories about liberation, they're stories about a system that makes escape nearly impossible. But this isn't just ancient history. The same themes of entrapment and struggle are embedded in modern narratives, whether we realize it or not. Take the American dream, for example.
The American dream. You got to be asleep to believe it. Didn't George Carlin say that?
It's marketed as a promise, work hard, and you can achieve anything. But for most people, it's a myth that keeps them grinding endlessly for a goal they'll never reach. It's the same pattern as Sisyphus, just dressed up in capitalism and consumerism. The boulder is now a mortgage, a student loan, or a dead-end job. Let's not overlook the role of entertainment. Modern myths, movies, TV shows, even video games often replicate these ancient patterns. How many stories revolve around characters trapped in cycles of suffering, endlessly fighting enemies they can't defeat? From dystopian sci-fi to superhero blockbusters, the underlying message is the same. The system is unbeatable, and the struggle is eternal. These narratives don't inspire rebellion, they normalize submission. The question is...
Yeah, see, I would say that these are just programs to get you to believe that the system is indestructible. I think they want people to take on that mindset. That's why they put that in films and movies and stuff. You know, they don't. It's like the allegorical Wizard of Oz. You know, what I believe this system to be is like an old man behind a curtain, when really we hold the power. But of course, they need you to believe the opposite.
Why are these patterns so persistent? Why do they show up across cultures, across time, in every corner of the globe? It's because they're not just stories. They're reflections of the system itself. Ancient myths weren't fiction, they were survival guides, coded warnings to future generations about the prison they were born into. Modern myths, by contrast, often serve to reinforce the system, keeping people docile and distracted. Even religions, which are supposed to guide us toward higher truths, often fall into the same trap. Many religious teachings emphasize submission, obedience, and the idea that suffering is redemptive. They promise rewards in an afterlife, but only if you endure the hardships of this life without question. This isn't spiritual enlightenment, it's spiritual control. So where does that leave us? The myths, ancient and modern, paint a clear picture. The system is designed to keep us in place. Every struggle, every hardship, every cycle of suffering is part of a larger design. And while these stories may seem bleak, they hold a key: awareness. The more we understand these patterns, the better equipped we are to question them.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sticking with me through this journey. I know this topic isn't easy to digest, but the fact that you're still here means you're ready to question the narrative. And that's where change starts, with awareness. So thank you for watching, for thinking critically, and for daring to explore these uncomfortable truths.
Yeah, I'll leave that there. I mean, it was just a really good breakdown. Like, I know a lot of you guys are aware of all this stuff about education and distractions and divide and rule and all this stuff, but don't forget, I get new people coming to the channel every day. New people that aren't aware of soul trick, they're not aware of the new age stuff. So I'm constantly putting this information out, and of course I'm looking to understand things more deeply as well. So I just thought this video nailed absolutely every point, and it was really good. And of course, you know, I understand it is a shit sandwich, but you know, like it says at the end, awareness and knowledge, I think, will be you know, vital to getting out of this place. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care, guys.